Welcome everyone to another Inside edition of the new 6th edition of Tales of Coles County. Appreciate you watching this video and getting this sort of sneak peek as to what you can expect in the book when it is released. Pre-orders are starting in September with a release date ultimately of October 1st is what I'm aiming for. In this video, I wanted to talk about the section on Eastern Illinois University, which of course is where I got my degree. I got a bachelor's in philosophy and a master's in history from Eastern Illinois University. I love the school. I love going there. As you'll read in the preface, I spent a lot of time at Eastern, spent more time there than I probably rightfully should have. So I lived in Coles County for about 8 years, almost a decade, working at the university, taking classes there, exploring the community. So these are a lot of things, a lot of stories from Eastern that I always wanted to write about, but I never got a chance to in previous editions for whatever reasons, space constraints, research constraints. But there's a lot of information online today, a lot of archives and resources that didn't exist 10 years ago. And Eastern in particular, has archives online now of all of its old newspapers, all the Daily Eastern News, the yearbooks, the Warbler, all going back to the foundation of the university. And I was able to go back through those resources and look up these stories and get more information about these stories. When I first started writing about this, that just wasn't available. I had to go to the actual archive in Booth Library and sit down with the bound copies of the Daily Eastern News and go through them manually. As you can imagine, that took a lot of time. So it's much easier now to do research and to find these stories. So you got 3 sections basically in here. Burl Ives was a musician, actor, entertainer. He went to Eastern, but he is also most famous when it comes to his association with Eastern for dropping out of school. He walked away. He didn't think it was for him. And there's a legend that's grown up that he was kicked out of school after he got caught climbing out a window in Pemberton Hall. Of course, Pemberton Hall is an all-female dorm. Men were not allowed except during visiting hours. So that's not really why he left, but that's kind of like a story that has been passed down. Napoleon, after World War II, when a lot of young men took advantage of the GI Bill. They came to Eastern, they flooded campus. There was a stray dog that they named Napoleon, or Nap for short, who kind of made campus his home. And at a time when all these guys, they'd fought overseas, they'd undergone a lot of trauma, they came here, they tried to lose themselves at college, and they befriended this dog, and he befriended them, and he basically had the run of campus, would go in and out of buildings without any kind of restriction. And when he died, he was actually buried on campus. There's a picture of his gravestone there. A lot of people probably walk by and they never even know that who he was or what his story was, so I really wanted to get that down on paper. This is another one I've been wanting to write about for a long time. The Phantom was a group of pranksters in the 1960s and early 1970s that would put their name up around campus, would put a watermelon on the spire of McAfee Gym, and they once actually transformed the clock on the gym into a replica of a Mickey Mouse watch. And even Eastern's president at the time loved them. He said he really enjoyed their pranks. They never damaged any property or anything. So it was just a kind of an interesting chapter in Eastern's history. Of course, you have the legend of Pemberton Hall. It's the most famous ghost story in Illinois, quite possibly, certainly the most famous ghost story in Coles County. You have the dorm mother, Mary Hawkins, supposedly the ghost of a murdered student that haunts Pemberton Hall, depending on who you ask about the legend. The fourth floor that's been off limits to students for quite a long time, and there's an old piano up there, so people have incorporated that into the legend. Of course, Mary Hawkins was a real person. I have a little bit about her biography in here. She came from England and was the first dorm mother of Pemberton Hall, so she is quite an integral part of the history of that dorm, which remains an all-female dorm to this day. So they've developed their own kind of folk culture and sense of history there. So that is, in terms of Eastern, a lot of what I have. Of course, other information about the university is scattered throughout here. In the history section, I've got a whole section about the Blair Hall fire. There's a new story in the book based around the Blair Hall fire. So there's a lot of information in here about EIU, not just in that one section. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this has sparked an interest in wanting to go out and buy the book. So look forward to hearing your feedback, and have a great day.